All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Today, here with your host, Richard Food from richardfood.com and The Ultimate Man. And today, I have a magical guy on the show here today. He is an interesting fellow, and I'm excited to learn more about how you can actually, inspire your health and your body to be in alignment together. I mean, we've had some other health specialists in here, but this guy, Mason Taylor is his name. He is a health advocate, right? And inspiring, helping people really, really, really connect with their body, not just through the spiritual sense, but also the herbs, the natural herbs and the Eastern culture and the philosophy behind that, and so that you can hit the greatest potential in your own health. And so, guys, I want you guys to welcome with me Mason Taylor onto the show. Mason, great to have you on, bro.
Awesome to be here, man. Thank you.
Oh, man, I'm glad you're here because I'm excited. We had a good chat offline. But so for the people who don't know who you are, Mason, man, could you share a bit more about yourself and what you do, man?
Absolutely. As you said, my name is Mason. I'm based up here at the moment in Byron Bay on the east coast of Australia. Grew up in Sydney. And quite a few years ago now, after having really beautiful upbringing, however, still quite a white bread upbringing is how I like to call it.
White bread.
Yeah, still a bit of a white bread upbringing.
Yeah.
Throughout that time, though, I constantly had that little rhythm in my life. My mum and dad, even though they weren't together and separated parents, both of them held this kind of they just weren't in the norm. They always had this edge to them that asked you to, they're always asking themselves, how can I go further in life? How can I be more of myself? My dad heavily in the martial arts world, my mum just solid rags to kind of really pulling herself out of the rags and creating a beautiful life for herself. And so that was in me, that capacity to look outside the box. And then in my early 20s, I started dipping into my body a little bit, and I'll share a little bit later. There was a kind of a turning point for me, but at one point I just started connecting with my body, and I then exploded into searching the world of health. And I didn't necessarily go about it the same way as a lot of people do. I had kind of issues in my body, but the issues just didn't come on my radar. I got very curious about my potential in the beginning. And so when I got back, I was actually in South America when the epiphany happened. And I got back to Australia and I started going literally, what is the essence of this planet? What is the essence of health? What is the essence of the elements that nourish me? How do I drop into the natural rhythm of life and myself so that I can really explore and get adventurous and seeing what my capacity for vitality, fortification, feeling safe, not only safe in my body, but really feeling excited in my body. And so it led me in, say, the health realm to going and going to the source for my water. I'm going and collecting spring water for myself. I started dipping into the herbal world. I wasn't just happy with the kind of herbs that were around, although I loved them, that were there to fix a problem. They're a solution for a problem. I wanted the herbs that I can take when I didn't really have a problem, but I was just kind of excited about health and herbalism. I wanted these things in my diet. So I started getting into medicinal mushrooms and adaptogenic herbs. I started getting into the superfood culture, getting into wild foods, exploring how then all these different avenues and aspects of health in our world, whether it was, there are dietary scenes, people going down paths of paleo, veganism, and macro. I wanted to I like staying slippery. And so I don't get stuck in them, but I like to see where's their relevance right now in this world, right? That's their place. Then culinary arts. Why do we have that? And where does that fit in? And then maybe we dip into ancestral diets. But then based on the world right now, what do I need to do to ensure that I'm fortified against the toxicity that's there, to make sure I'm saturated and abundant in the nutrients that I need to really evolve effectively, genetically, right now, based on the life that I'm living? And so I'm just on this adventure, man. And actually, I just looked up and in a new room, and there's this poster that just has adventure, right there. I just spotted it as I said it. And that's now I've come to this place, and I've organically studied the body. I've studied ancient systems of healing and herbalism, such as the Taoist arts, Amazonian shamanic arts, plus nutrition in general. However, you know, it's been a folky way of, I've taught myself a lot, and I've had mentors along the way and given myself some kind of classical education at the same time, but it's amalgamating and organically got me to this point where in my community, I can share with people based on their journey, hey, this is a little insight that I've got and something that you can start up to maybe start sprouting those seeds of potential within you in the health realm and beyond. Obviously, we talk about health, it runs through in the body, ensconced in the body, but then that ripples out to emotional and spiritual aspects as well. That's what I do now. I offer herbs to people, running retreats, mentoring, and of course, it's my life in life in general. I just love going around and having conversations with people, curious to see what's possible for them in terms of their health and them just having a real badass life.
Oh, dude, man, that was like a unbelievable amount of information there. I was like, there's stuff you're saying that I've never heard of before, man. Ancient diets, like wild foods and superfoods, and like, whoa, man, there's all these things that are happening. And man, I love it, man. I love it. We'll get into it a little bit deeper, but before we even get into that, man, I want to understand your story, man. You're saying, that, you had like an epiphany, a moment where you realized, man, I got to look after my body some way, shape, or form. Talk us through that, man. Talk us through what happened and what made you make this huge decision to be like, you know what, my body comes first, man. My temple comes first. Right? Talk us through that.
So in my early 20s, it was the time I was at uni. I was bartending, and which I kind of see that's where my focus on herbalism came from. Because absolutely, bartending is a beautiful craft, and herbs are a part of that. Yeah. But I was still getting swept up, having the best time ever, but swept up in that culture. And then I went traveling for a year over to South America. It's something I've always done. I'm an avid traveler. And so I was backpacking for a year through South America, and kind of aware of health, but at the same time, just in the party culture, had the junk food thing going on and wasn't really moving my body consistently in an appropriate way and being pretty hard on my body. And I was in Bolivia. I was on one of those fully stereotypical South American chicken buses. It was raggedy, and someone was moving house. So it was a whole house on top of the bus.
Was this outside La Paz as well, man?
No, we're on the savannah, high mountain savannah kind of the scenario. And this little town, chickens going all over the bus, and I hadn't the last few days. I'd just been I'd been moving my body a little bit. I hadn't been on the drink or anything like that. And I was just for the third or fourth morning in a row. I was traveling, and I had my head up against the glass, and I was exhausted. It was 10 in the morning. It's a young man. It was quite strong, and I was just I was looking out, and I was trying to pull my head off the glass, and I couldn't. I was like, man, I'm really, really sick of feeling like this. And then I had this moment where I just dropped in and kind of felt my body for what felt like the first time in a while. And I was like, oh, I didn't have anything acutely, anything chronic necessarily going on, but it was just I was just holy shit, something's not right. And I just felt it. And at the time, I didn't realize it. You'd think I would, but I knew it was there, but I didn't realize. Fungus coming out of my arm, and so I've kind of now tracked that back to having I had a bit of a yeast infection and overgrowth of fungus in my body. Whoa. And I was exhausted. I was on my adrenals and my whole endocrine system and my nervous system was strung out. Anyway, I just felt that, amalgamation that, and I was like, that's it. I got to do something about this. And so I finished up my trip, and a few months later, I landed back in Australia, and I had a year left of my degree, and I was studying, funnily enough, international business. And I went back and I tried to finish the degree that I'd started. And they were like, oh no, we've changed the rules. You have to do this crappy degree now with all these crappy subjects. And I was like, fine, I'm going to push through. I'm going to pass my degree, peas get degrees, and I'm going to spend this year studying the body and nutrition. And so I pretty much just went into full-time studying of health and my body and food. And at that time started opening up to the kinds of herbs that you could bring into your body now to cultivate the energies that are there within you. So to cultivate my reproductive capacity, and not just sexually, but my cells' capacity to reproduce. I'm like, right, I can cultivate that. I can cultivate my capacity for vitality and then maintaining that vitality. And I started getting very interested in this world, and I feel like I wasn't focused on my issues that were happening. And so very quickly, of like 3 months, my fungus just was gone.
Yeah.
And my energy was back and was sustainable. And I got pretty heavy into being quite rigid with my diet, as a lot of people do when they get in, and I fell into the dogma somewhat, and burnt myself a little bit through that, and was a bit harsh on my body as I was following rules that I thought, and just, and you find, you feel yourself getting on an agenda, right? And and you feel yourself out there, like, just like, no, like that person's wrong, that person's wrong, I'm right, like my community's right, and I got swept in through that, and then I felt my health start to kind of diminish again, and then I've snapped out like into my next evolution and just stayed nice and slippery, as I call it, as I was saying before, where now I'm just curious in going forth in what's possible for my body in every area of life. And so now my health practice comes down to a lot of my my curiosity, and also the questions that I can ask rather than the answers that I think I have.
Oh, beautiful, man. Love it, man. And dude, man, that would have been freaky, man, when you woke up and you found out like you got fungus, right, in your body, and it's growing out of you, man. Like that would have been scary.
Oh man, I'd had it. I realized like it always came up when I was traveling in cold climates, and I'd shut off and I wouldn't be getting in the sun. Like it happened a few years before, when I was 19. I was in Austria ski instructing, and then that's where it started to really come out of my body. And it was just the pharmaceutical model, which is good. I think the allopathic pharmaceutical, no, maybe not the pharmaceutical model, modern medicine model, in a traditional sense now, like, it's like something's going on, patch it up. And so, putting the creams on, body's trying to detox something, stuff it back. And so obviously all those years I'd been stuffing it back in my creams, and it just happened to be really coming out in this next season. And I was just like, and I just couldn't ignore it anymore. Well, I could have. I could have kept on going down that path of ignoring it. But my will, my spirit was just like firing, it was in the Andes, it was just activating, and it was just like, get onto this. It was all like, it was just me talking to me. It was surrounded by these epic mountains, and I wasn't, wasn't there on necessarily a spiritual pilgrimage or anything like that. I was just rocking as a young man, traveling and having the best time, but just something awoke in me, and I was more excited. I was excited. I was never worried. I see it as a pitfall. And I don't know, I won't project it and saying it's a pitfall of the health community, but it's been, I've noticed as a pitfall of myself in my health journey, as I start to see, focusing on what's wrong and seeing the symptom and just getting swept into it. And then you get, like, say you go into a diet that helps you with, say, the fungus or the energy. And then it's a complete externalization of that diet, and that food's the thing that came through and saving grace, and that's what helped me, rather than it being a collaboration of yourself, the medicines, the herbs, the protocol, and then having the strength to be like thank you to that protocol, whatever it is, whether it's a rigid diet, and then just letting it go, right?
Yeah. Love
See,
that.
It's fun.
Oh, that's amazing, man. And so, let's talk me through this here, Mason, because, you use some awesome, like, health buzzwords, I will call it, right, that I've never heard of before. Like, we always hear, this is a superfood, this is a wild food, and all this. What is it? So describe to me, and the people listening here who are, like, maybe it's just me who's stupid, right? But what is this superfoods, right? And what do they give us? And then how's that different from, like, wild foods? Right, and then from there, let's talk about the mushrooms and the herbal side of things after that, if that's cool, man.
That's the coolest thing ever. Um, so the definitions aren't rigid. You're going to see it's a sliding scale. In particular situations, a particular community might refer to something as a superfood and get excited and actually have a communication and say something that's got like 12 or more. It's a food, not a herb, that has 12 or more medicinal capacities or implications on the bodies, rather than just the nutrient density. So as well, you've got like a food that's got like a lot of nutrient density with medicinal implications on the body. So therapeutic implications on the body. It's got more exotic immunological food, for example, something along those lines.
That's a superfood, right?
Yeah, look, it's like something that the industry's kind of taken it and run with it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And then I don't really even use the term too much anymore. However, I still love the term because it was very relevant for me back then. And so I was getting onto like when I considered there was like, you know, it was still I had a linear way of looking at it. So I had my food, my organic foods in the health food store.
Yep.
That was my diet. And then because I was living in the West and I couldn't get onto, say, like enough like wild foods that hadn't been domesticated or hadn't gone through an agricultural process or a domestication process where their genes were altered to be something that fits into our current industrialized Western way of living.
So
right?
like wild is an untouched, it's not being like farmed. Does it if it's been farmed on a farm, is that count as a wild food or not?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be. Not to say that it's bad.
However,
you know, it's the same. You can get like, you know, the sense that like a cow's a domesticated animal versus the original animal that it came from is an auroch. You know, the same as like a dog is genetically domesticated, whereas a wolf, where that domestic dog came from, is wild.
Yep. Okay. Right? Gotcha. Yep.
And it happens the same with food. You know, like you know, all. But, you know, again, not to say they're bad, like, you know, cauliflowers, broccolis, kales, they're all domesticated, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
They're all from one original wild food. So, but the superfoods are relevant for me then, and I'm like things such as like aloe vera, I brought heavily into my life. I started getting into, you know, the goji berries and the chia seeds, and these foods and you can see there was like, you know, like in my sense, like the community was kind of early adopting kind of days, and then now the rush of everyone like jumping on top of them. Mainstream's on it, and I always tend to kind of leave things go. See if I can get into the mainstream about. As if it becomes mainstream, I'm like, right, I'm going deeper. I need to go deeper. Because like that's just always been my nature. So that's kind of a general kind of like dancing around the edges, keeping it slippery definition of superfoods. And then you get into herbalism, and I can draw on more of an ancient classification of herbs, where in say the Taoist herbal system, there'd be three classifications, and you'd have the regular herbs, for example, and so these are the herbs that you take when you are like, you know, garlic, echinacea, these kinds of things, and you've got like a little symptom, and right, I'm going to take echinacea to knock out that virus. Now, you can't take it for the rest of your life because it only drives your body in one direction, right? Like echinacea is going to drive your immune system up. You know, and so after a while, it's going to get too high. Then you've got what they'll call the inferior herbs. And these are the herbs that when it's getting real, when someone's like seriously sick and you need something that's like a slight poison, that, you know, that it's like, that's kind of where pharmaceutical drugs have come from these inferior herbs. Like you just take it once, boom, like knocks you back into, you know, gets you back into balance, hopefully. Then you've got what they call superior herbs. Now they're the herbs that they call superior because you didn't wait until you got sick before you took them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So then we find that now, you know, the world's kind of collaborating, you know, especially like, you know, we're contributing the adaptogenic herbs of each culture. And the Taoists just happen to be the best culture at keeping a catalogue of those herbs. And so they've got the most extensive set of tonic herbs. They're adaptogenic, which means unlike those other herbs that only have one direction, they're multi-directional in the body. And in that adaptogenic capacity, your immune system needs to go down, then we'll bring it down. If it needs to go up, we'll bring it up. Same with hormones. We tone your body's capacity to regulate itself.
Right. And these are the superior herbs, right?
Yeah, because you're not developing a reliance upon them either. So like want to say like a favorite of mine is reishi mushroom. You know, it's a medicinal mushroom. It's a superior tonic herb. And now when I start getting on, like I've been taking reishi now for like on off like 5 years, right? Now in that time, I've been cultivating my immune system's capacity to regulate itself. Know when to get to a site of infection, know when one of the messages coming from the body is actually coming from my body, or maybe a virus trying to hoodwink my body. So my immune system's intelligence is getting the upgrade. Now, then I just say I stop taking that reishi. You know, there's no reason I necessarily need to stop it. Just, you know, I need to stop. I've cultivated that capacity. I'm not reliant on that medicine. But that's why they're the superior herbs.
Right. And then, like, so these superior herbs, from the sounds of it, is that the stuff that you could take, would you take it like every day to keep yourself in check?
Yeah, you don't have to, but it seems to be quite an integral part of humanity. You look back to, say, the Amazonians, right, drinking their hot chocolates.
Yeah.
They're drinking their hot chocolate. It's a hot tonic elixir. We still have that practice today. The difference is in their hot chocolates, they were, say, using pau de arco, uña de gato, chuchuhuasi. Now, these were adaptogenic herbs that they knew they could include in their diet every day, and it helped them cope with the viral and the bacterial load and always built their immune system stronger and gave it more intelligence. So, yeah, they'd be drinking it every day. In the Taoist, in the mountains, up in the Oriental, like, you know, those sacred mountains, the Taoists sitting there drinking their goji berry tea, their wild harvested reishi mushroom tea or ginseng tea in their hot elixir every day. But you see, we still drink tea every day. Humans remember. And that's the same with coffee. And then you go into, like, say, the Indian region, they're drinking their chai every day. And so we see people now, they're going and just smashing coffee there's no tonic herbs underneath it. There's no medicine being delivered. People are still drinking hot chocolates, teas from, you know, these huge industrial tea paddocks that when they get transported over, they get mold on them, and, you know, they just start becoming less than the best, you know, they're not so medicinal anymore. And so then we don't go, right, stop drinking your hot chocolates. You know, you're not allowed to do coffee. You know, you're not allowed to drink shitty tea anymore. We acknowledge that we're all dipping into a lineage, right? We're all trying to drink our medicine.
Yeah.
And so then we just add in, they say, these medicinal mushrooms, right? So you start making like a medicinal mushroom hot chocolate for yourself in the morning. Or if you're doing a coffee, right? So coffee, when people forget, coffee's a herb. Yeah.
Right.
And it falls in that herbal system. Yeah. And so we bring it back into its essence a little bit more. It's actually a brilliant delivery system of other herbs. Right. So it's stimulating effect. It stimulates the body. It can stimulate and open the body ready to receive medicine. So we put some nice yin restorative herbs in there. There's adaptogens for the adrenals, the kidneys. So we put a little bit of hishu wu in there, a little bit of that reishi mushroom, and we might put some coconut oil, a little bit of maple, our coffee, you know, and then we blend it up. And then boom, you got your coffee. You don't need to stop anything. You just upgraded it, and now you're drinking a coffee elixir.
Oh man, and this is where your bartending skills came in, right? It's like, put this in and this in, and is it that? Let me ask you this, Mason, man. Is like, you know, so these superior herbs, right? I mean, how many should you mix in, and can you actually have too much of the superior herbs as well? And what would happen if we did do that?
When you start getting into that conversation of can you have too many, you need to come back to your own personal intention.
Yep.
So I found at times when, short answer, like with everything, yes, you can have too much. However, say everything, you know, in every food substance or liquid that you can ingest, generally has like an LD50, like a lethal dose 50, that gauges where the lethal dose is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much you take, and that's when you die.
Yeah.
Like a herb like Hishu Wu and reishi. Now, Hishu was a root, and the reishi is a medicinal mushroom. They're so adaptogenic, they haven't been able to find that it has an LD50.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, so on one level, no, like it's fine. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
In terms of then you come back to your intention, right? Am I throwing the whole kitchen sink at it and just putting everything in there? Why? Are my fingers crossed that this thing's going to save me?
Yeah.
We peel it back a little bit and we go like, what are you actually bringing up? What seeds actually, of vitality maybe, or immune, I just want to feel safe in my body. I want to go, right, let's feel what that is. That's your intention, to have an immune system, to be able to not worry that you're going to get, be infiltrated by infections from viruses and parasites and bacterium, overgrowth of yeast that do lead to the degenerative diseases that we have in our culture, that are, it's pandemic, most of them. And what is pandemic is the particular infections that are coming from these opportunistic organisms. So, hey, I just want to have an immune system. So what do I need to fulfill that? Right. Maybe I just need to be having at the moment, just a teaspoon of that reishi in my elixir every day. And my intention is becoming fulfilled to develop that fortification for myself, right? At the same time, sometimes you're having fun. You want to feel like, I'm going to put half a teaspoon of this reishi, and put Hishu Wu, astragalus, or I do that. I make blends. I've got a medicinal mushroom blend and I put 8 medicinal mushrooms in there. But my process of creating it and crafting it, I'm tight on my intention. And so my intention is an overall immunological medicine from the mushroom kingdom. And I get that into a balance where it's appropriate. And people really like that at times. And some people want to develop a relationship with the individual herbs. And so a lot of people just like having that reishi. And like any food, you can just feel it. It brings up a kind of a sense. I kind of know what that does in my body after a while. And you start to cultivate your skills in just feeling and sensing, yes, that's right for me today. Yeah, that's real good for me today. No, that one's not feeling really appropriate for me in the summer, even though it was for like 3 months during winter. These senses start to come back, and I always like to throw that curveball in there. But this is a nice place to delve into herbalism if you haven't done it before, because you're working with tonic herbs, with adaptogenic herbs. So they do have that capacity to adapt, and they do have that greater complexity where they can work with your body's rhythms. And so it's a safer place to start. And so just go for it and have some fun.
Oh man, I love it, man. I love the way you shared that it really comes back to, why are we taking this? It's not because someone told you got to get healthy and take this, right? It's, you have to look beyond that path of really digging deep in. It's like, why do I really want to take this? Why do I really want to eat this way? Why is it? What am I trying to get out of it, basically? Right. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, man, because so many of us, we just told, this diet is the new diet. This is going to be awesome for you, right? It's going to give you this.
Yeah.
But what if I don't want high energy, right? What if I'm, something, man, this is probably going to be controversial. It's like, what if some people just want to be sick, right? Because then at least other people will connect with them. It's like, oh, man, so sad that you got sick. But I get it, man. And, I'm excited, man. So, man, I just want to ask the question, where can we actually get some of these things? Because is it like available at our domestic like stores, supermarket stores, or do we have to go to like a specialist place to find these ingredients?
Well, man, like all these years ago, this sliver of the health realm, the tonic herbs was that's the one that I chose to pursue as a business, because I just felt nice and kind of like ninja to be getting these tonics out there into the community. And there wasn't really anyone doing it in Australia first of all, everyone I'd ask, they wouldn't be able to tell me the source. And I was pretty fanatical. So I started a business kind of just because I wanted to be able to go like, right, I want it wild harvested off these trees. I want these trees to be this many years old, based on whatever herb, and the mushroom or the herb needs to be this years old. So it's had the time to actually cultivate its medicine. So I started SuperFeast like 4 years ago, and started dishing out the herbs to the Australian community and international now. But SuperFeast .com.au is you can just go and access those like herbs. I've got them extracted, you know, fanatical health mason approved kind of stuff. Which, you know, people like, you know, I work with a lot of mothers, like especially I've always a soft spot for working with mums, and I've spent a lot of time putting my face out there in the community to really show people, you know, hey, like I'm out there doing the work with you. You know, I'm not just asking you to trust me. I just, you know, just walk with me for a little bit, you know, like, and so you can see I'm continuing to be here. I've got a lot of longevity in my vision for this business and for my work here. And over time, I really get to slip into that part of the community where people can be like, right, I can go to Mason and I know he's done his work, you know, and so. And people can get their nice jewel extracted medicinal mushrooms, and then, you know, just like mums like getting it into their kids, you know, just making like all of a sudden they're just like, wow, you know, I've got a strategy to build up the immune system of my children through the food and through the sunshine, now from the herbal aspect. And when you start seeing people's immune systems build, and naturally you're less susceptible to that intense viral infection, people are going to be experiencing it. You know, I love winter because I get that new wave of people who have just gotten onto the herbs, and they're going to be able to go like, wow, you know, I hear it every year. Wow, I really, you know, it was way less severe. I just didn't get sick as much. You know, and then that starts to come through. And so, but yeah, that's SuperFeast. That's my little baby that I created a while ago. So yeah, you can get access to them there, and it's going to be ever growing as well. I'm going to bring in more, and I've got a new website coming out. You know, by the time this launches, new website might be launched, and it'll be nice and easy to navigate. Hey, what's your intention? What are you activating? Right. Okay, I can go towards that herb, and then you can start to play with it.
Gotcha, man. And so that's really exciting, man. And I love your approach as well, is that you're not rigid, right? You're fluid, you're willing to experiment new things, and you're always on the horizon looking for that new thing, that new ancient thing that's like, oh man, no one, it's like totally forgotten. And you know, I look forward to just seeing you just finding new stuff, and it's like, oh Richard, you got to try this other mushroom out, man. This thing does this, and it's just I'm just excited, man. So that's awesome, brother.
Yeah, man, it's totally like that. I've had to like realize times when I was getting excessive in that area as well, and so I balance out, because that's part of my medicine to myself and the world, is that adventurer. Like, hey, this. But man, at the same time, just as fast, I'm now dipping back in and releasing the tension from my body and relaxing and like really relaxing my nervous system and softening my body and softening my approach. And then at that point, man, the harmony starts to get real sweet.
Yeah, guys, if you're watching on the replay right now, you can see, I mean, you're just seeing Mason. It's like, yeah, man, it's all right. It's cool. It's all flexible. It's all fluid. And that's what I love, man. And so I wish we could be more fluid with this. I wish we could be more fluid.
Spring water helps.
Exactly, man. And so, man, we got to start wrapping up the show, Mason, because I'm just intrigued, man. I'm just sitting here going, whoa, that stuff's awesome, man. And so we're going to go into the quick fire round questions here, brother. And so
cool.
Kick it off with the first, our signature question, the time travel moment. So, Mason, if you could go back to any moment in your life, right, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it is, and you could tell yourself just one thing that you know about yourself now that, you know, maybe your younger self, little Mason, really need to know, what would that be, man? And when would you have gone back to?
That's a good question. Funny enough, is, you know, I've never been asked that. So I would go back 10 years ago to when I was 19, leaving Australia for the first time. I was heading off alone to travel Europe. And I'd say, go for it, man. Like, go hard, like, you know, really, you know, go full power, but be gentle.
And be gentle to yourself. Power, man. Power right there. Love that one. And let's move into the next one then, Mason. So, you know, you've read a lot of books, man. I'm sure you would have studied a lot, right? Especially for all the herbs as well. You know, if someone wants to learn more, right? If there was an absolute must-read book for people watching, people listening, what would that book be, man?
Perfect for this conversation. Especially, there's a book by one of my mentors called Stephen Buhner,
Mm-hmm.
And the book in particular is The Secret Teachings of Plants.
Whoa.
I highly recommend it.
All right, man. We'll add that into the show notes because it sounds really interesting. Just the title itself captures me, man. And, we're moving into the finish line here, Mason, this is a question that I love to ask you, man, especially being a man. Like, in the modern world we're living in today, man, men are, at a certain stage, a certain road, right? A crossroads, I would call it, where the world is evolving ever so much. And, women have stepped up, but I don't know if men have. I don't know if men have stepped up to become the man that the world really needs. And what do you think is missing? And what do you think men need to do to really step up and become the modern man for today's modern world? What would that one thing be?
Oh, man, good question. Got another half an hour? I'm going to be cheeky on this one, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As you can probably see, I can go in many directions when I give some answers. First of all, guys, this might not make sense, but, first of all, we need to cultivate some testosterone in men. Mm-hmm. Men are becoming very effeminate. Mm-hmm. Men are getting so many of these phyto and estrogenic substances in their body, dumbing down and dulling down their capacity to cultivate their testosterone, and then their capacity to actually cultivate that raw sexual energy that's masculine, that is in absolute resonance with the feminine energy of this world, and actually wants to have a communion with it and respects it, doesn't control it. And likewise, when that gets matched by the feminine, not wanting to control the men, cultivating that vitamin D, guys. If you haven't, best way to get this done, right? Yeah. If you have never gone and got your balls out in the sun and got the sun on your balls, go and spend some time doing that. Get some light on those places, cultivate some testosterone. So you've actually got some what we call in Taoist arts, jing, right? Some jing, some raw primal sexual energy that can then be shared with the rest of your body and can then go on to be cultivated into some wisdom. So you've actually got that safety and that space within your own body to allow the wisdom that is there for us to tap into as men, and what our medicine is for the world right now, to actually have the grounding where then it can be fulfilled and you can cultivate it and actually feel that and then share that.
Oh man, that's amazing. Was not prepared for that, so that's amazing, dude. Awesome shit.
Yeah, me neither.
Me neither. Oh, that was magic, man. That stuff was magic, and told you, man, magic Mason for sure. So wrapping up here with two last ones, brother. It's like, question I have here for you, Mason, is like, what is true health? What's absolute like true health for yourself and for people, man? Like, what would that look like?
It's a harmony, and you can feel, we talk about a pendulum swinging in the body, and so our pendulum will swing in one direction, and then can we come back into harmony without that pendulum, whether it's emotions or rigidity of diet, from swinging back too far in the other direction. But really, all these areas of our life that we can go in, we can go in that direction. We're going in all these directions at once, juggling a million balls at once. And these are all aspects of ourselves that are going off and wanting to be expressed. But can we come back to a center point of harmony and amalgamate and unify and actually see how they go to create, our lifestyle or ourselves in the next moment? So real health is having the space for yourself where you can sit in that contemplation and allow yourself in this moment to come back into harmony, to really receive the lesson, so that then you can ask a deeper question.
Dude, that, man, God, the brain is just getting fried here with so much amazing stuff. I'm loving this chat, Mason, man. And it's just, and the last question I have here for you is, Mason, if you had 30 seconds left to live, right? You're surrounded by, your loved ones, your family, your friends, the people you've impacted, right, who've changed their lives. What would you leave them with, man?
We would have a 30-second celebration of life.
And what would that look like, brother?
we'd have a party. We'd dance. Maybe someone can pop some champagne.
We sing,
and we can
right?
hug, and we can sing, and we can look at each other and be like, man, we've been on an adventure together. Look at this. Look at these people. Like, look at where we are. Look at what we're doing here. Magic. Let's celebrate it.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. So Mason, man, thank you for jumping on the show, brother. So if people want to learn more about yourself or learn more about these awesome superior herbs, right? Where's the best place for them to contact you or to find out more about the herbs, man?
Yeah, for the herbs, head over to superfeast.com.au. So that's FEAST, and you can get lots of info there. And for more of what I do, you can head over to masonj, just the letter, taylor.com. So masonjtaylor.com. We've got information about mentoring and retreats that I run and just what I'm into. Yeah, so there's lots of stuff there to play with.
Awesome, man. Well, man, absolute pleasure having you on, sir. It's an absolute pleasure and honor. And I'm just grateful because now I learn more than ever before about health. So great to have you on, man.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. So this wraps up another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Today with your magic healer, Magic Mason Taylor, right? So make sure you head on over, check him out. And of course, guys, he doesn't want to keep this a secret. This stuff needs to get out, man. How many of us don't know about this stuff? And so it's important that you head on over to iTunes to rate and share this out with other people. And of course, head on over to richardfood.com for the show notes and all the references that Mason's thrown in. And finally,
I recommend 5 stars. I recommend on iTunes.
You're a champion. You're a champion, man. Thank you for that. And of course, remember, guys, to go out there, go live with love and go smash it. And I'll see you again in the next one.